Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live for a Saturday Q&A. And, of course, my name is Steven. I am your host, joining you from the Central Coast out here in California. So hopefully our Airbnb Wi-Fi, is doing good today. So joining me, as always, are my guys, Tyler and Alex. Tyler, start with you, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, although I'm struggling to catch on to why Adam Schefter still has a job.
Definitely, want to send thoughts and prayers out to the Haskins family. Just a tragic scenario. I was looking at his Instagram and, he was posting some things yesterday down in Florida with his teammates and things like that. So just an awful situation, thoughts and prayers to him. Alex, how you doing, man?
Good. Thoughts and prayers to Dwayne Haskins as well.
Yeah. And Adam Schefter, man, you got to be better. So anyways, so we are here to do a Q&A as always. The super chat feature is enabled. If you want to make sure that you get your question answered, be sure to use that. And then we'll have some things to talk about, the Kenneth Murray situation, as well as the DeAndre Carter signing before we get to some of those questions. So let's start with the DeAndre Carter decision. The Chargers, of course, deciding to go with Carter as opposed to bringing back Andre Roberts. Alex, what do you make of this signing? I know you did a video earlier this week, kind of breaking down the Chargers options. So now that it's official, what's your reaction to the signing of DeAndre Carter?
I think it makes a lot of sense. On paper, you would kind of want to bring, such a fan favorite, someone like Andre Roberts back, who, obviously kickstarted the kick return game last year from what it was. But I think you look at DeAndre Carter as a guy who can contribute in the offense in the way that he can run some of those end around plays. He had a lot of fun with Taylor Heineke last year and had his best career season as a receiver with 300 yards, I think 24 catches, something like that. So I think he can, contribute to your offense in that way. And also he's not that much of a drop off from what Andre Roberts was as a kick returner. I think it's about 27.3 yards per attempt to 25.1. And he's got, punt return usability there too. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone there if the Chargers are going to use him as a kick returner and punt returner. So I get why people were hurt by moving on from Andre Roberts, but I do think the DeAndre Carter thing makes sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree as long as they take Carter and use him more in the offense like you suggested. And I think they will. I was always surprised last year Andre Roberts was not involved more other than a couple end arounds. I had maybe one reception, if I recall, but otherwise not very involved. Now, he did come on, the middle of the year, not at the beginning, not in, April like Carter is now. But I was surprised they didn't get him more involved. So it looks like they do have another player that can get involved in the same way with the handoffs, but also downfield. Actually impressed with some of the stuff that Carter was able to flash just in the brief little film study I did, just looking at some of the things he was asked to do. They really pushed the ball deep with him. So I think that's a great part of the offense that the Chargers need. My two questions are, one, why was this not a longer deal, I guess? I actually kind of thought that they would go with maybe 2 years. I guess it's a journeyman returner, so maybe I shouldn't expect a longer deal. But I kind of felt like they were setting everything up to be like, okay, let's commit to a younger guy or a younger group, or commit to guys for 3-4 years. The Hopkins deal, the Harris deal, you have Neiman for 3 more years, you have Rum for 3 more years, all that sort of stuff. And then my other question was, I forgot. So somebody else go ahead. I totally forgot my other question.
It's all good. I'm curious to see how this works out as well from an offensive standpoint. I think, when you're prioritizing this returner position, we all kind of figured that, Ryan Ficken would come in and maybe target his guy through the draft like he did with the Vikings. I forget his name. It's Kene Ngaku or something like that.
Kene Nwangwu, yeah.
That's the one. Thank you. So I kind of figured that they would want to get younger and maybe get a more viable receiving option.
Yeah,
like you guys are talking about. So, this is that same kind of thing. It's just, via free agency. The contract is definitely interesting. Like Tyler's pointing out, it's a 1 year, basically vet minimum contract. And, if they are thinking of this player as somebody who's kind of on the ascent, like they have been in other instances, obviously, then I'm a little surprised that this isn't a multi-year deal, maybe, a bit more of a reward deal after having a career season. So I'm curious about that as well. I would love to know what Ryan Ficken and Joe Lombardi are kind of thinking again. And this is something that's really interesting too, is that, there's no known connections between Carter and Ryan Ficken, which is also the case with Josh Harris and Dustin Hopkins. So Ryan Ficken clearly has a plan. I just would kind of like to know more about it. And but I think this ultimately is a good signing.
And for what it's worth, Ficken was also involved with wide receivers and in Minnesota to a certain extent, like assistant wide receivers or whatever it was. So him working with Carter there as well and on special teams. Some people weren't sure if he'd be a roster lock or not, but I think at this point, barring some crazy injury, I think he is a roster lock.
Yeah, I agree. But he is a roster lock too. And so I think that probably gets you Keenan, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer as the other roster locks. And then Jalen Guyton is a probably. So that brings you up to 5. And then at that point, it's a matter of whether they want to keep 5 or 6 receivers. They kept 5 last year. Well, they kept 4 receivers last year in KJ Hill. But no, it's a matter of whether they'll want to keep 5 or 6. And I don't know what this move suggests in terms of like the draft and stuff like that. But I still think wide receivers probably on their radar, like they talked about with Olave and Watson when those reports came out yesterday.
Yeah, you mentioned keeping essentially 4 receivers. Tyler and I were laughing in, Allegiant Stadium when Roberts was out there running routes and like Justin Herbert just like there was no chance that he was going to him in under any circumstances. So, maybe that's the goal here. Maybe you get a more viable receiver, we were saying earlier. But I really hope that they are going to keep 6 receivers next year, because I know everybody doesn't love Jalen Guyton, but he improved last year. He was really their only speed threat, and he did become a more well-rounded route runner. So I'm in favor of keeping him around. Honestly, if they're able to add another speed threat, that would be great. But I'm curious to see what this does. Like if Calvin Austin is on the board in the 3rd round, excuse me, does this signing kind of like take him off their board? Like, I think that's an interesting draft nugget, because, Austin's more of that projectable slot gadget receiver kind of player, and that's probably what Carter is going to be doing too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. I do want to talk about, because Evan, not Avon, asked me to talk about this. I watched the video on DeAndre Carter. Can you explain why this takes wide receiver at 17 off the board? I don't think the signing of Carter takes the wide receiver off the board at 17. I think the Chargers are just going to be out of wide receiver at 17, which isn't popular, but this to me just is starting to smell like the Kaiser White situation, where everyone's going, well, yeah, why would you let Kaiser White go? That doesn't make any sense. He's a good player. But it ended up happening, right? What we want to happen isn't always necessarily what the Chargers want to do. I think the Chargers can convince themselves that they are taking a step forward on offense. They're doing that by switching out Everett for Cook, which is definitely an improvement. I think if you're involving Carter more on offense, that's definitely an improvement over Roberts. Guys develop. You've obviously committed big money to 2 wide receivers. Palmer should get better. Parham should get better. McKitty should get better. And if you address the offensive line, I think Telesco could look at that and go, hey, I think we've improved on offense. Let's just focus on defense. Or take a wide receiver later on to develop when maybe Carter leaves, or if Palmer doesn't work out, or when Guyton leaves next year. I just don't think, like, even though we want speed at wide receiver, and a lot of people are mocking, Chris Olave to the Chargers at 17, I just don't buy that the Chargers would actually go do that. It would be a bit of a departure from what the Chargers usually do, which is not go for speed at wide receiver. And so I don't really buy it. And to me also, Tom Telesco in the first round is very predictable in terms of maybe the 1 or 2 positions he's going to go for. And right now, once you get to the draft, I think it's pretty obvious, like, okay, they're going to take a left tackle. That's why everybody was mocking a left tackle to them last year. I think this year it's right tackle or right guard. I think one of those gets solved pretty soon, hopefully. But to me, they're so obvious and it seems so predictable. Wide receiver is just not the predictable thing for them, and it's certainly not based on their history. So I think overall, wide receivers off the board at 17, that they do want to get speed at receiver, but later on.
Yeah, I happen to agree with that if Jameson Williams is off the board.
Yes.
Like, I think if Jameson Williams is there, then I think he has to be the selection just because of the value of him potentially being the best receiver in the draft, if not for, the ACL situation. And, now we know that he's going to be healthy and probably, playing in week 1. So Jameson Williams, I think, is kind of the BPA scenario that would be kept alive, with the Chargers in the draft situation. So I know everybody got a little excited about Mr. Schultz's tweet yesterday about liking Chris Olave and Christian Watson. And listen, they could certainly like those players. They're really good players. They're really good receivers. Christian Watson is a freak who tested with a perfect RAS score. But that to me really felt like, hey, come get this 17th pick so we can, so you guys can take one of these receivers. So I'm not going to say that receiver is like completely off the board, but to me, like, I think if you're truly trying to improve this offense, like, you have to get the offensive line solved. And I think, we're going to talk about the interior offensive line class, on our next episode, but, Zion Johnson to me solves a lot of issues that this team has and will have in the future.
I still think it's BPA at 17. I don't think they have taken wide receiver off the board by any means. It's difficult because everything you're saying makes sense, but also I disagree with the fact that Tom Telesco has been predictable in the first round because, like, I think the last 2 years in particular, obviously Justin Herbert and then Rashawn Slater, it's like, okay, those are our biggest needs. But like before then, it's like, okay, we're going to trade up for a running back and a linebacker and do like all of these things that are,
Jerry Tillery.
So yeah, Jerry Tillery, like things that weren't analytically inclined. Who's that Sioux Fall guy? 3rd round, first pick on day 2.
In the first round, I think it's predictable, not overall.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's been predictable in recent years. Like, I mean, but Joey Bosa, 2016, like, I mean, not a lot of people expected that to happen. When most
Joey didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, Joey didn't expect that to happen, and that led to a whole contract fiasco with him. But I don't know. I think that Tom Telesco has been predictable the last few years just because their needs have been so blatant at quarterback after Rivers left, and then left tackle because they just haven't had a left tackle for like 10 years prior to Slater. But I still am a little bit suspicious about what kind of they're going to do there. I still think if Olave or Jameson is on the board, I think they do end up considering it. I don't think they'll outright take that player. They might just go with Trevor Penning or someone who's on the board because that's the need. But I don't think wide receiver is off the board by any means.
Yeah, no, I ultimately think that, Brandon Staley truly believes that this team just needs the best player available. So to a certain extent, right? Like, we'll transition right here to the Kenneth Murray situation. Obviously having ankle surgery recently and really just an unfortunate situation. And at this point, I just feel bad for this guy. Like, he's had so many things go wrong so far at this point in his career. And this is just kind of another one on top of it. So obviously I'm hopeful that this surgery, it kind of cleans up the issues that he was having with his ankle injury, which clearly, affected him, all throughout the season after injuring it against the Raiders, but he also had an ankle injury in training camp or at the scrimmage rather. So, a lot to take in here with the Kenneth Murray situation and have to point out again, since Tyler was weirdly catching heat, all he was doing was laying out the time frame with that tweet. He was not blaming anybody. So I know some people were still upset about that. All Tyler was doing was laying out the timeline there. So Tyler, we'll jump to you on this one. What do you make of Kenneth Murray's ankle offseason surgery with, 2 years in a row of him having off-season surgery.
Yeah, first off with the tweet, like I'm not blaming Kenneth Murray for his needing surgery. I don't know where
How
that
dare he
came
get
from.
injured?
Right, whatever. It's definitely concerning. I definitely don't want him to be like, I hope this does fix whatever it is, because he was like, okay, 8 to 10 weeks, we'll let it heal, and then it didn't even kind of move. Like nothing changed apparently, so they had to get surgery. The good news is they're not related. So it's his shoulder and then his ankle. So I'm imagining they're not related, but it's definitely concerning. Murray has just had a rough start, and 2020 was fine, but then switching schemes and now the injury, a lingering injury, now surgery for that injury. I mean, it's really, really concerning. This guy needs to get both on the field or mentally caught up, and get on the field so he can get mentally caught up. And anything sidetracking him from that is going to be really, really tough. And so, I hope they keep him at one spot this year, but it is definitely concerning that in the span of 13 months, he's had his second pretty notable surgery. And that shoulder surgery was no joke. It was, I don't recall exactly what it was, but it was pretty gnarly, like floating chips and yada, yada in his shoulder, this tear and that tear. An ugly injury that he definitely played with. So I hope this is taken care of, but it's concerning to say the least. I don't think this makes them take a linebacker at 17 by any means. I don't even really think it makes them take a linebacker in the third round, barring a fall, but I would start preparing. Well, okay. If Murray's playing Will, if he's playing the weak side as the weak side guy, I guess Tranquil's his backup. I don't know. Then Amen's the Mike, I guess, in this defense. Like, how does this even play out? Because I'm trying to figure out what they would be looking for in this draft. Because so Murray would be the weak side guy. Yeah, that's what he was last year.
Yeah,
but then he was there. Year. It's so hard to tell. At the end of the season, he was playing edge. So I wish I knew more about his role. So like, would they be looking for a Mike, even though Murray's the one that's hurt?
Yeah, I think in terms of the weak side linebackers, you would have Murray, Tranquil, and Neiman.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if you're trying to replace, Kazier's role as the Mike and also kind of help out or provide competition for Amen, then you're adding a Mike anyway. So, I mean, the good news is that losing Murray potentially isn't as serious as losing Kazier, obviously, because you have Tranquil and Neiman, who they both like. But yeah, this is a really unfortunate situation for him. I mean, he had a good rookie season, and we were all really excited about it. We all really liked the draft pick. He has the surgery. He struggles last year, has the injury. Now he has another surgery. So, it's really unfortunate for him, as somebody that we were all really excited about at one point. But this is not going to change this team's philosophy. Like, they are not going to, rush and pick Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean at 17 if they're there. Like, that's just not going to happen, because this team just does not value linebacker in that way. And listen, man, like, everybody who listens to this show knows I would absolutely love Devin Lloyd on this show. I would probably get his jersey in every possible color the second that it became available. But it's just not going to happen. Like, Brandon Staley does not value linebackers in that way. So I think they could certainly address the linebacker position early day 3, as opposed to like not at all, or late day 3 with some kind of project. But, they're not going to draft a linebacker with their first 2 picks when they don't have a second rounder. Like, they need to get 2 starters at premium positions with those two first picks, and that's just not how they view linebacker at this point.
Yeah, I think the idea of the Chargers taking Devin Lloyd is funny, just because Steven and Tyler are going to be at the draft live, and if Devin Lloyd walks on the stage, I think Steven will despite his knees, just start floating into the air, levitating as the light embraces his body, and he'll have a lot of fun, and we'll get a lot of great content out of it. But
absolutely,
no, I don't think that oh god, I don't think that this changes their philosophy much at all, like Steven said. But like, this is another thing we were just talking about on the show about when we talked about our linebacker rankings. Just like, oh, they really believe in Amen Ogbongbemiga. They really believe in Kenneth Murray, and it's just like, that's really hard to sell to me. Like, I'm sorry, obviously Kenneth Murray's had these back-to-back, consecutive seasons with off-season surgeries. And Pongpamiga was not anything special last year. Granted, he played his best kind of as an undrafted free agent. But no, I think it's just a really tough sell, and that's why letting Kaiser walk was hard, because it's just like now you're depending on some sort of like Kenneth Murray, who's been banged up and not really too dependable over the last couple of years. Now another surgery, and now we just kind of gotta hope he can fit into the scheme and hope he's healthy by the time the season starts, and hope they don't move his positions around, and hope that other guys don't get hurt, right? So there's just all these like contingencies, I think, that like have to work for Kenneth Murray to be, a very serviceable, good linebacker one, like we all want him to be, that I just don't buy it right now. But I hope it works out. I hope he is healthy, and I hope he's the player that we drafted him to be.
Yeah, I'm curious to know about the timeline here. Obviously, we haven't really gotten one. I mean, he just had surgery, so I would expect him to like be ready for training camp at the absolute best. But I would imagine that he misses some time this year. So I mean, obviously, as soon as we have that update, we will have it for you. But I think one player here that I would potentially be really interested in, or a couple players that we talked about from our linebacker episode. I think Brandon Smith would be a fantastic bet here, with the physical tools. And, I think DeMarco Jackson would be from Appalachian State, be another guy that I'd be interested in. He kind of fits the mold of, those day 3 picks that Tom Telesco has traditionally valued. He was a standout at the Senior Bowl. He has the physical tools. He has the RS score. I think he was a former safety in high school. So I think DeMarco Jackson on day 3 would make some sense, as kind of throwing it out there for a potential draft pick.
Yeah, it would be a bit of a pigeon. I still think Brandon Smith works better as that weak side guy to keep him clean, let him run. But he did play Mike last year, and so he could only get better there. He looked good there. We graded him well there, so it's definitely possible. Thomas Martinez pointed out Malcolm Rodriguez in the chat. It's definitely a couple of guys I have not watched yet.
Yeah.
I think they kind of have to take a day 3 linebacker at this point, though.
Yeah, I just think you have too much uncertainty. So, heading into the draft, even after losing Kaiser, I was kind of expecting maybe one of the 6th or 7th round picks to be a linebacker, special teams kind of player again, like Nick Niemann. But I think that obviously gets moved up again. Not 1st or 3rd round. I think the Chargers need to get starters, like premier starters, in those first 2 picks. Potentially like an offensive lineman, some kind of DB, or a receiver, a running back. As much as people will hate that, I do think that running back isn't play in the 3rd round. 2 offensive linemen, an edge rusher in the 3rd, something like that. Yep. All right, so we will open it up for questions. Obviously, at this point, we'll go through and choose some that we have seen already. Otherwise, Super Chat feature is enabled. So hit us up with your best questions related to Kenneth Murray, the draft, whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll get to.
I low-key want to talk about Tyler Linderbaum, but I kind of also want to save it.
Oh, we got to save that for tomorrow, man. Or for Monday, I should say. NSN said he's putting money on us having a linebacker controversy midseason. Yeah. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me.
What would that look like, do you think? Like, do you mean like someone's injured and we don't know how to start? Or like Murray is terrible and he needs to get pulled, but they won't?
Just all of them being bad. That's the controversy.
I mean, I think Drew is a good starter, right? Like I think we know that he probably is the safest player there. I don't know if he'll be technically a starter, right. But I'm comfortable with Tranquil starting, man. I really am. It's just the other players. Like, I think we all really like Nick Niemann, and they like Eamon Ogbongbemiga a whole lot. But I think at least one of those 2 players will develop more in year 2 than we saw last year. Yeah, Leo Chenal did ragdoll Tyler Linderbaum, man. That was That was a fun thing to watch from a Leo Chenal standpoint, anyway.
Yeah.
Original one really wants us to sign Darrell Williams from Buffalo. I mean, at this point, I will take anybody, like literally anybody.
A lot of people asking about Stingley. This one's from Reality Check. Would you rather trade it for Stingley or stay put and take best player available, even if we take a corner at 17?
I'm fine with them taking a corner at 17. I think trading up for a corner and a corner who is a little bit risky. I think the whole point of the first round is obviously adding premier talents, but also mitigating risk as much as you possibly can. So to me, like the idea of trading up for Derek Stingley is just not something that I would really be interested in due to the kind of risk around him. And then you're trading assets to go get him. So, I mean, they clearly like him. They're a fan of him. Obviously, Brandon Staley would not be at that pro day if he were not. But if he's there at 17, I'm cool with it. But trading up for him, I think I would be out on that, especially because, at this point, it's sounding more and more likely like the Vikings or the Washington football team are going to take him at 11 or 12. So you'd have to jump all the way up from 17 to 10 if you want Derek Stingley, and that's just not. I'm not interested in that at all.
I'm not a fan of trading up for Derek Stingley, but I'm also not a fan of trading up in general. Like, I just think there's too much talent that's going to be on the board at 17, like regardless of who's there, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a cornerback, offensive tackle, whatever position they want to go for, corner, that I just don't think trading up, like in general, makes sense.
Also, I did see this, and I did have a question about this one from Todd Miller. Thoughts on Popper saying Pipkins may get some time at guard? I saw that in his article, and I had to do a double take because I don't. Have they even touched him at guard this entire process? I mean, he's their swing tackle. I don't buy them. It was a weird inclusion for sure.
Which article did he say this in?
I don't remember.
The 6 questions that need be asking or something?
No, it was like, I think it was like sometime this past week. I remember seeing that like towards the end. I was like, wait, what? Pipkins at guard? Like, he has tackle feet. Don't we know that?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Trey Pipkins playing guard is that he's bad. Like this whole idea of like taking somebody who is struggling to adapt to the position that they are naturally born to play is that then you are just putting him in more uncertain circumstances, right? Like, so Trey Pipkins is this developmental tackle, and then you're going to switch in positions to a completely different position. Like, that's just not how you develop players at a high level. So,
yeah, we didn't learn from Kenneth Murray. We're just going to do the same thing again.
Pipkins, I think. I mean,
I know. I think Pipkins' issues are all strength and anchor related. Like, that's the biggest issue that Trey Pipkins has, and he's not super explosive off the ball. So all of those issues that he has would all be amplified at guard, where you do have to be super explosive off the ball. You have to have a strong anchor. You have to be a really powerful run blocker, and that's just not what is happening. So. Right. I think he's pretty clearly a tackle.
Oh God, can we please block this user?
Oh
man, I did have a question. Okay, just because we're talking about this Pipkins guard switchback thing. So Duke Manyweather a couple of times hinted sort of last year that the team, like some teams reached out to him for advice about certain players, especially in the draft, obviously. And I do think the Chargers value Duke Manyweather's input. Obviously, they got Slater. Abuji's from there. They sent Pipkins to work with him. Do you think this is very different? So I know Duke is huge against putting players at tackle and their right tackle, moving them to guard just because you think you'll fix it, moving them to guard, or switching players from left side, right side, like we saw with Sewell. Do you think Now, Filer is not a rookie. It's very different, and he has played right tackle before. What do you think Manyweather's stance would be on someone like Matt Filer switching from left guard to right tackle like that? Or do you think he would advise the Chargers, if the Chargers are even taking his advice, but if they are, do you think he would advise them to keep Filer at left guard?
Yeah, I think Duke's whole thing is obviously getting players to perform at their best and where they are most comfortable. And so I think that Duke would look at the Matt Filer situation and say, okay, this guy just had a career season for you at guard. He had his best season of his career at guard for you in your scheme with your players surrounded by, Rashawn Slater and Corey Linsley. So sure, you could, go back on his experience at right tackle, but then you run the risk of him being a worse player for you and then obviously cutting him down the road. So I think from a player development standpoint, from a Matt Filer standpoint, I'm not interested in moving him. And I think Matt Filer would have no interest in being moved either, again, because he just had the best season of his career at guard in this scheme. So to me, like the team might want to move Matt Filer, but I think if you asked Filer, if you asked Duke Manyweather, what their stances would be in moving a player like him, is that, hey, I'm comfortable at left guard, or he's comfortable at left guard. Why would you risk him being worse at a different position?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think that's a part of the equation we're not talking about as much. Where, again, same thing. Oh, let's just put him at right tackle. But like, there's people involved. There are, voices of reason. There are, coaches. There are the players involved. Like you said, Filer. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that is
money involved too.
Also money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like he's making $7 million per, so it's not like he's making, by any means like a cheap right tackle contract. But, if you're going to ask a player to move to right tackle, like I think you do have to, give him a more heavily incentivized contract to do that. Because they paid him to be a guard, as far as we know.
Question: who are your guys' favorite prospects in the draft? Like the most fun to watch?
The most fun players outside of the Utah ones that I have watched, Leo Chenal is definitely one of them.
Yes.
I would say Damian Pierce was one of them. I would say Zion Johnson is one of them. And I haven't gotten to him yet, but that Marquise Hayes guy, the clips that Tyler posted yesterday, man,
dude,
that guy seems legitimate. And then Andrew Booth is one as well that I'll throw out there.
Yeah, Marquise Hayes, man, like, there are problems for sure. Like he's not a first round grade by any means, but boy, was that a fun watch. Him against Baylor, watch him do the same thing against Nebraska too. This dude, it's a weird thing with TDN this year, the Draft Network and their boards, because I didn't include him on my list. I didn't include him on our composite rankings. I didn't do any of that because I usually take guys in their top 250. I don't want to go through 450 guys. He's at 350 something on TDN's board. He's Brandon Thorne's number 4 interior offensive lineman. Now, granted, everyone can see a player differently, but I'm going to bet that Brandon Thorne's interior offensive lineman 4 should be better than 351 on TDN's board. So he was a lot of fun, though. There are some, this is going to maybe not sell some people. There are some Trevor Penning-like issues, not the asshole nature of him, but some, playing high, yada, yada. But he's a guard and he's going to go in round 4, which is very different than Penning at 17. I do really, really like Marquise Hayes. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with kind of all my guys. Jerome Ford, Tyler's favorite. One of my favorites to watch in this class. You have
How is he your oh god. Okay.
Wasn't he on that all ceiling list of the bootleggers though?
Yes, all 3 of our RB1s were on the all ceiling list.
There you go.
Oh, that's good. Well, at least we're going in the right direction, I think, except Tyler doesn't think I am. But no, I like I mean, obviously I like Garrett Wilson. Sky Moore is like, I didn't know who that guy was, and then I just watched him, and that wide receiver was the first group we did. So that was like really before Sky Moore propaganda hit. And now he's like being talked about as a potential first round back end guy, which is crazy to me considering where he started. Because I was like, oh, we can get him in the 4th round if we sneak it. And now it's like, nope, we can't do that. So he's one of my favorite guys to watch. I mean, I really liked. We haven't done cornerback yet, but I mean, Sauce Gardner is a lot of fun, even though we have no chance in hell of getting him. He's going to be the first quarterback drafted probably, except maybe Stingley, but he's a lot of fun to watch as well. So I think there's a lot of fun guys.
Yeah, so circling back to one of the questions here, Lorenzo asking if Brendan Hymas was drafted to be a backup then. So I think these day 3 picks, there's obviously a lot of give and take here. I think ideally you're drafting them to potentially become a starter. And I think Brendan Hymas showed enough in the preseason that, hey, like he can handle the transition to guard and he can eventually become that starter. But there's no guarantee that somebody who's drafted on day 3 actually does become, a verified starter. And I think if you're looking at this draft, for example, I want this team to draft Zion Johnson like pretty badly, and we'll get to him a little bit more on Monday. But like the idea of drafting the best guard in the draft does not necessarily say, hey, like Brendan Hymas was a wasted pick or anything like that. He can still be a very valuable asset to your team, like we saw with Scott Quessenberry, be one of the better backup centers, in the league, if you will, who started some really valuable games for them when Mike Pouncey was injured. And so it was a player that we obviously all wanted to start over Dan Feeney. So there's definitely value in having Brendan Hymas to be a backup. I do think he could be a starter, right? Like I think if you want to kick Matt Filer to right tackle, you can bring back Ode Abuji, for example, and let Hymas and Abuji, kind of battle it out in training camp and see who really is the starting right guard or left guard or however you want to work it. And then after Abuji leaves, then in year 3, then you're looking at Brendan Hymas as a potential starter. So I think it is important to keep in mind, like with these day 3 picks, most of them are drafted as like a 2-3 year project. Most of them are drafted to be a backup, a serviceable player, depth player. So not to say that he can't ever be a starter, but I think the earliest that Brendan Hymas is going to be starting for this team, barring injuries, of course, would be next season, not this season.
It all depends. I mean, on how they want to kind of work the offensive line too, right? Are they going to bring Ibushi back? Are they going to invest, 1st round pick into an offensive guard potentially? So I think Hymas is one of those pieces where you just kind of stash him for now. And if an opportunity comes where somebody gets injured or, they just really don't figure out guard, then there's always potential for him to start. But I think he more than likely is a backup. And I think it's just harder with offensive line anyway, because optimally you want to be playing the same 5 guys all year, right? Like that's what everybody hopes for with their offensive line. So if Hymes isn't a starter at the beginning of the season, and we don't think he will be, then we don't want him to see the field because that will mean someone got hurt, right? It's not like receiver where I think you can draft a guy in maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th round. And it's like, okay, well, this guy's really starting to flash some stuff in training camp. We want to get him more reps each game. I think that's a little bit of a different nature to it. And you can kind of, plug and play receivers as you do, which is, that's just harder to do with like an offensive lineman you took in the 5th round.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look at some of their former players like Chris Watt. He started, we got to week 4 and he started, although he was a 3rd round pick. Sam Tevi barely started his first year. I think it just was that 1 or 2 games. Then 2018, he got to start. So it's just kind of however the situation plays out. Like Alex said, it just kind of depends, like whatever plays out. I don't think he was drafted to be a backup by any means. I will say that Duke Manyweather, again, probably selling his guys, but said that Hymas was developing nicely, whatever that means. He's hearing good things about his development, I think is what it was. So who knows? Maybe they are really high on him. We never know.
Yeah, like if you go into this season with starters as, Slater, Hymas, Lindsley, Zion Johnson, and Matt Filer, like I would be pretty fired up about that. I think that's a really good offensive line. You have the 2 young pieces to develop with, your 2 all-pros, and then Matt Filer, who's really, really solid. So I think it all depends. But I think when you're drafting these players in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, you're ideally not asking them to start right away. James C. pointed out Sam Tevi. Sam Tevi wasn't drafted to be a starter. Like the team had Joe Barksdale on the team and Russell Okung on the team, and then shit hit the fan, and so Sam Tevi was all of a sudden starting. So, I think it just kind of depends on the other circumstances, but ideally you give these day 3 picks time to develop and be able to become those players that they are drafted to and not have to rush them onto the field. I think it's a similar thing with Chris Rumph, right? Like you're letting Chris Rumph develop for 2 years before you can kind of really see if he's a starting caliber player. Lots of offensive line questions today. Of course, I love that. So
yeah, keep asking them. NSN did ask, can you try to get more of the team members, especially Ode, who we already had, Filer to the podcast? I will say there's a certain long snapper on the team who is down to break down film on a live stream.
Wow.
So we might be having Mr. Josh Harris on a live stream.
Wow.
The highest paid at his position.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's moving
Tyler
right
with
now.
the pole. Attaboy.
There we
moving
go.
right now, but we'll figure it out. So yeah, really moving up with the snapper. But you know what? We're getting there.
I mean, we're always trying to add these players. I mean, getting to a Derwin James, a Justin Herbert is going to be very difficult. Obviously, Joey Bosa, like you have to go through a bunch of hoops to get those kind of top tier players. But I mean, we're always trying. We're always sending DMs to all these guys and emails to their agents and things like that. So it's not for a lack of trying, especially right now with the focus on the draft. Like, that's kind of where our attention's at. So after the draft, before the season, we'll definitely try to get a lot more players on for sure.
I'm hoping that we've interviewed, and Maddie and I, Stephen, have all interviewed 40 whatever prospects. I'm hoping one of them joins the Chargers. Like at some point, we're going to have some odds work out here, right? They have
volume
10
shooting.
picks. Exactly. No, we're just dart throws.
We gotta get Gene DeLance on the team.
That'd be nice.
That would be nice.
One of the people Maddie interviewed tore his ACL at the Packers camp yesterday.
Oh, that's right, the fullback. Yeah.
And then people were really excited about him. There's a lot of people saying nice things about him. So who knows? I'm not having Gabe Neighbors on the podcast. At this point, I think I've burned that bridge.
Look, man. No. If Gabe Neighbors says he wants to come on, you let him come on. All right. He's got to
get the gack up.
I sat here after all the shit I talked about Larry Roundtree and interviewed him face to face. If I could do that, you could do that with Gabe Neighbors.
At least Larry Roundtree's active.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true. Oh, Kasim Osgood's brother was in Old Town Clovis. Interesting. That's where I live. Interesting. All right, let's get to some more draft questions here. Is this about your sister? No, the sister thing was Emeka Egbole. It was not Kate Neighbors. All right. Nimbus A, what round do the Chargers go after, an edge or an interior defensive lineman? What do you think there, Alex?
Edge or interior? I don't think it's the first round unless they want to take a chance on a Jabo falling, and I don't think they're going to go after Jordan Davis or any of those tackles. So probably, I mean, I think edge is probably harder in the third round now because you have the Mac trade. So if that hadn't happened and, maybe they re-signed Uchenna to a short-term deal, that could have been a possibility. I'll say for defensive linemen, I'll say probably third or fourth round. Edge maybe a little bit later, but also depends on what value is on the board.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of work on this edge group personally, so it's hard for me to tell exactly. But I think if they're going to pick one earlier, it'd be edge, not interior defensive lineman. And I really don't think interior defensive lineman is in play for them until late day 3 when they find we need another guy to replace Gaziano or potentially replace Fajoka. I think that's kind of your max. Like a lot of people, I know Michael Peterson just did that mock draft, having them take Devontae Wyatt, but Jerry Tillery is the starter for this team. That's not going to change. That's just not going to change. So I don't think the first round, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's really going to happen in the third round, to be honest. I think it's just going to be a ways for interior defensive linemen.
Yeah, I think there's a slight chance that Jermaine Johnson would be on the board at 17, really slight. Especially if there are some quarterbacks going in the top of the draft, like unexpectedly. So, like if the Saints trade up to 5 and take Malik Willis, like I think that obviously changes things. But I think that I'm not going to completely rule out Jermaine Johnson at 17. Like I said, very slight possibility. Edge rusher, I think, would be in play 3rd, 4th round. I think that's kind of the last little stretch that you can find a viable starter. And they do need an edge 3 like pretty badly. So interior defensive line, they met with the kid from Missouri State. I forget his name.
Johnson,
yeah, who was at the Senior Bowl and also did the NFLPA Bowl, I think. So I think that Awuzurike from Iowa State could be in play. Obviously Jay Rogers was at his pro day, but that to me is like 4th round at the earliest. So I do think 3rd round is in play for edge rusher. Obviously 1st round if Jermaine Johnson falls. But yeah, interior defensive line is probably pushed down the board at this point with all of the signings that they have made there.
God, Jermaine Johnson's there at 17. Oh God.
Yeah,
it's gonna suck because we're gonna be at the draft and they legitimately might pan to you, me, and Arjun and our reactions. And I really don't know what's gonna happen. Like,
please. Oh my God.
Yeah, Chorizo asking about what is your guys' worst case scenario in the draft? The absolute worst case that I can think of is trading up for Trevor Penning.
Bernard Ryman at 17.
So just not off the tackle. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't like Ryman at 17, especially like OT 5 at 17 at that point, assuming Penning goes earlier. Yeah, they might actually have to trade up for Penning if they want him, which is the worst case scenario for sure.
My worst case scenario is OT at 17.
Listen, like I'm not a big Penning guy, but I would understand obviously like why you take him. I think he obviously has been training with Duke Manyweather. They need a right tackle. He does have the athletic upside. So if they draft him at 17, I'm like okay with it, I guess. I'm not advocating for it by any means. If they trade up for Trevor Penning, then that would be absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I'm just bracing for Trevor Penning at this point. Here's really what it comes down to. The guys who know offensive linemen like Trevor Penning. Daniel Jeremiah likes him, Duke Manyweather, Brandon Thorne. They all like Trevor Penning, and they have him going about that range. So at some point, I have to trust them and Manyweather having him. We're not going to see this new Penning if he's on the Chargers until August or whatever. And things might change. So you never know.
Yeah. I'm still holding out that Charles Cross falls, man. If Charles Cross were that pick, I'd be so happy.
Yeah, Charles Cross is the only guy that gets me to reverse my no OT at 17 take.
Yeah. But I think in general, like you can hopefully find a quality starter there later on. Like to me, I think I'd rather take my chances of drafting one in the 3rd round and taking a Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green at 17 and just getting a certified legitimate starter at guard and just kind of waiting for the tackle later.
Let's flip this. What's the best case scenario for each of us in the draft?
Oh, Charles Cross, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, realistically, Charles Cross. I could even make a case for Zion Johnson as a best case scenario because it's like you probably address right tackle at some point in free agency. So now you have Zion Johnson as one of your guards or whatever. That'd be great. Best case scenario. Jermaine Johnson obviously would be freaking awesome. Cross.
Yeah.
Is a corner really like a best case scenario for me? Like even if it's a great player, well, I guess, yeah, if it's Sauce Gardner. Trading back, to be honest. Like trading back and taking somebody is the best case scenario.
Okay.
What about yours, Alex?
Wide receiver. All of the wide receivers. Garrett Wilson, Olave, Jameson Williams, all of them.
Oh, that's too funny. Just best case scenario is Steven choosing the offensive tackle and Alex choosing the receiver.
Yes, very predictable.
But I think in if you're looking at this draft, I think there is kind of a drop off. Like, I will have a first round grade on Zion Johnson, but I think if you're looking in terms of like getting a premier player, I think you're talking about Charles Cross fall, a Jameson Williams fall, a Jermaine Johnson fall. And so I think those 3 players would be kind of worthy of best case scenario. And I think after that, then you're talking about Zion Johnson, Chris Olave, Andrew Booth, Trevor Penning in that same kind of instance. And I wrote a whole thing about Jordan Davis yesterday for LAFB. If you missed that, please go check it out. That's my feelings there are all pretty laid out. But again, I would Jordan Davis is somebody I would understand them drafting, but I don't think it qualifies as a best case scenario in my opinion.
I'm happy that Jordan Davis is probably projected to go above 17 at this point, so we've stopped talking about it and stopped beating it into the ground. But yeah.
This guy sent in a couple of super chats. Andrew Dang asking if we need mods for our channel. If not, that's totally cool.
What's a mod?
Oh my god! Someone
Alex?
who reads the comments and filters them, and blocks people. He would basically be doing your job instead of making your head explode. In that regard.
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think he meant moderator.
Oh, like a modifier, a moderator?
Okay. Yeah, a moderator.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I meant mod like for a car, like a facelift for our channel.
No.
Because like our pictures are like me without any facial hair, Alex 65 pounds ago, Steven's the same.
Oh god, we
I'm
need to
wearing a
change
yellow
the cover
jersey.
photo on the channel.
Yeah.
We need to change the banner. It's so bad.
Steven looks the same. That's cool.
In a good way. You aged fantastically over the last year.
Steven looks the same. Me and Tyler have been through it.
Science.
Good super chat question from Sean O'Brien. Who's your favorite 3rd round OT? I think Abraham Lucas is kind of past that at this point. He's getting a lot of 2nd round hype. A lot of Broncos writers think that he's in play for the Broncos 2nd round pick. So yeah, Max Mitchell would be there. Let me pull up my lists.
Kellen Diesch has moved up a bit for me from Arizona State, especially because he tested so well. I always just thought he was solid, like a solid dude. Yeah. Everyone says he has good movement skills. I think he probably does, and he's not bad, but he tested better than I would have expected. So
we got, probably Kennard, Mitchell. Those would be fun. Abraham Lucas, like Steven said, you could maybe trade down Bike Thief. That would be
Rasheed Walker.
Yes. Those are kind of like my 3rd round options if they want to go there. But
yeah, Diesch is a good one. I think, the thing there is you're ideally hoping to be able to beef him up a little bit. Braxton Jones from Southern Utah, probably early in the 3rd round, is a bit of a reach, but I think he's got some really interesting physical tools. Stood out at the Senior Bowl, which again we know is something that Tom Telesco really likes. I forget his first name. Stuber from Michigan, I think, is an interesting offensive lineman in general because I think he's like 6'7", but he does have shorter arms. So I'm curious to see kind of how the NFL evaluates him, whether it's a tackle or maybe he's kind of an interior prospect. So that's somebody that I'd be interested in drafting in the 3rd round as well, but I don't know if he's like a verified tackle or not. Andrew Stuber.
Yeah, I think TDN has him as a guard and Thorne has him as a guard somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Or is it his 21st ranked guard or interior offensive lineman? I wasn't a big Stuber guy because he kind of feels like a non-mobile gap scheme sort of guy, but
yeah. An interesting one too to keep an eye on. I haven't watched him yet, but Zach Tom from Wake Forest has like basically identical measurements to Rashawn Slater, and Ben Fennell actually comped him to like a poor man's Rashawn Slater in terms of his technique and things like that. So, one actual Rashawn Slater and one mini Rashawn Slater would not be, the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I could live with that. From SoCal Bolts fan. Since Telesco always takes the highest rated player in the 1st round, who do you think the top rated players are on the Chargers board at 17? Devin Lloyd? Like, honestly?
Yeah. I would just imagine that the Chargers board is pretty similar to other boards. Like, I don't think it's going to be radically different. It's just going to be, which position do they think they need? And, if we're talking about wide receivers, for example, right, they might prefer a Chris Olave over, a Garrett Wilson, right? Because they feel like they need more team specific speed, right? Or if you're talking about offensive tackle, right, who's ready more to play right now versus who's a project. So, I mean, I think it's probably fairly similar to the consensus. I don't imagine it's too different.
In terms of their board at 17, like I feel like Zion Johnson would have to be pretty high because like he has that versatility. He has that Senior Bowl standout experience. He can play all three spots in the interior. I have to think that Zion would be pretty high. I would have to think like Devin Lloyd would be pretty high. But again, the positional value. Staley loves defensive backs. So maybe Daxton Hill or somebody like that would be higher than we are all thinking. Maybe Andrew Booth is higher than we think. I think Brandon Staley's board and Tom Telesco's board are probably pretty different.
Yeah. I mean, do they always take the highest rated player though? I mean, I seem to remember Jerry Tillery pick somewhere in there, but
he was their last first round grade.
Really? Wow.
That's what Telesco said after. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was our last first round grade, but sure.
Yeah. So I was looking at I don't know if I should say this or not. Yeah.
What is it?
you can't just say I don't know if I'll say it.
It's nothing like Intel wise. It's not a sourcing or anything like that. But so I was writing that Jordan Davis article, and I was looking up like statistics of like Vita Vea, Derek Brown, Taven Bryan, like these other like run stuffing nose tackles, right? And just like how Jordan Davis would compare to those players. And then like just out of curiosity, I was like, okay, like let me go look at Jerry Tillery's run stuffing statistics. Would you guys know? Have you guys looked at this?
No.
This is
so I was not super into like talking about the Chargers or anything like that at the point of when Jerry Tillery was being drafted, but Jerry Tillery's run stop percentage his last year at Notre Dame was 4.6, which was like if you filter it to if you filter it to 50% of snaps, it was like 190th in the country. And he had like 300 snaps, so it wasn't like he was playing a very minimal amount of snaps. Like he had like 7 run stops and like a 4.6 run stop percentage his last year at Notre Dame.
But he stomped on USC. So. Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. I saw that and it was like
24% missed tackle rate. Sweet.
It's like shocker. That player did not become a viable run defender.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to like think in my head, like how much if he made 7 run stops, how many run stop opportunities did he have? And that if it's 4.6%, that must be like around 200. So I don't know, somewhere around there.
So he had 20 run stops in 241
20.
run defense snaps.
Okay.
So it wasn't 7, but the run stop percentage was really low.
The thing is, we all believed you because that's Jerry Tillery. Like,
so yeah, I saw that. And so the I don't know if I should say this comment was I don't know if I wanted to like pile on Jerry Tillery or not, but yeah, that was
we already do it on the show. It's fine. He's not coming on for an interview.
410 East Coast, Jerry Tillery, DJ Fluker as worst first round pick by Tom Telesco. I mean, I happen to think that Fluker wasn't awful. I just think he was played at the wrong position from the start. And I think if they had re-signed him, he would have been a decent guard for them. But worst first round pick, I gotta look this up.
Me personally, I think if you're looking at it right now, I get the projection. It's Kenneth Murray to me.
Yeah,
like it's Kenneth Murray because you traded up, gave up capital to get a linebacker who currently we're not big fans of. Could get better for sure, but in terms of Tom Telesco, like Jerry Tillery, they needed to get after Brady, Mahomes, and all that in the playoffs back when Brady was a Patriot. And so I get Jerry Tillery for them. Fluker, they needed a lineman really bad. And hey, Telesco joined the team. The line was awful. And he said, look, we got to get a lineman for Phillip Rivers. And so I at least understand that trading up into the first round for an off-ball linebacker is rough.
Yeah,
And
I think it's Kenneth Murray by far. The more I've thought about it, Jerry Tillery has been bad, but I mean, he was kind of end of the first round. They didn't really give up anything to go get him like they did with Kenneth Murray. And then they compounded the Kenneth Murray thing by going after Joshua Kelly as their first pick on day 3.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the stinkiest of the bunch by far.
Man,
I have more hope.
AJ Smith had some real stinkers in the first round, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Craig Davis
nuts.
in the first round, Antoine Cason, Larry English,
Corey Liuget.
But Corey Liuget was at least like okay.
He was
like,
fine,
he was fine.
but oof.
Sammy Davis, I don't even know who that is. Oh, then he had LT. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
His Herbert.
his Lord and Savior.
Yeah, his Lord and Savior.
Yeah, I think, and because we don't like fully know if Kenneth Murray pans out or not, I'll say Melvin Gordon is the worst first round pick for Telesco so far.
Mm-hmm.
Again, traded up for a running back. Didn't hit a second round.
Yeah.
Didn't hit a second contract for you. Only had 1,000-yard season. Like everybody always talks to me about like Ryan Matthews being worse than Melvin Gordon, and Ryan Matthews had 2 1,000-yard seasons. Melvin Gordon only had 1. So I think for now I'll say Melvin Gordon until we really know about Kenneth Murray. And people will say Verrett, and I get that.
Yeah.
But that was an injury thing. Like if Verrett
Right.
had ever been healthy, he would have been a premier corner in this league, and we saw what that was like, at least for the 2 seasons he was healthy.
Yeah, no, Verrett. Peak Verrett was some of the best corner play I've ever seen.
Yeah. All right, so we'll take one more question here. So make it a good one, and then we'll head out for the day. So if you've been dying to ask us a question, if we missed your question, hit us up right now. Yes, Christian, Dwayne Haskins did pass away today. Very, very tragic situation. Favorite Girl Scout cookies.
What is it?
They changed the name, but they used to be called the Samoas.
Yes, those are my favorite
chocolate
as well.
Caramel coconut ones. Those are the best ones.
Are they tagalongs, or is that the?
I think tagalongs are the peanut butter ones.
How are they called now? But yeah, the Samoas or whatever. Those are delicious.
Girl Scout cookies are overrated. And I'm just going
Grinch.
Girl Scout cookie, you come to your workplace, you make people buy your daughter's cookies. I don't know. It just seems kind of like a Ponzi scheme to me. But no, I just don't think the cookies are very good either. They're kind of overrated. I mean, I'd rather just like go get some cookies from like the store or something.
What's your go-to cookie then, Alex?
Ooh. I think Oreo is, yeah. That's the leader in the clubhouse. Chips Ahoy on certain days, but
Chips Ahoy are not better than Girl Scout cookies. Bro.
Chips Ahoy is better than Girl Scout cookies. Girl Scout cookies are not good.
Caramel Delights.
Samoas are called the Caramel Delights. Okay.
Right. Okay. I knew I was gonna get ratio for that one. They're not very. They're just not very good. I don't know.
I've worked with kids for about 10 years now, and so listen, like
you eat Girl Scout cookies a lot.
They're like, "Hey, do you want to buy Girl Scout cookies?" Or we used to be like, "No." There's these like popcorn, like they have a different thing. It's not Girl Scout. It's for like guys baseball or whatever. You can buy like kettle corn or popcorn or whatever. Like, would you like to buy some kettle corn for my team? It's like, oh yeah, sure, dude. What am I gonna say? No. Like, okay, it's $14 for this bag of popcorn. I'm like, what the fuck? Do I lose weight with this?
Oh my gosh.
Oh god.
Oh, we got a super chat.
Thank you, Bart.
Oh, just a sticker. All right. Oreos are vegan?
Yeah,
No way.
people are asking to deport me. I'm already out of the country, so you can't do that.
Boy Scout kettle corn.
It's so nasty. I mean, it's fine, but it's not $20 of my life.
Yeah, I will say Boy Scout kettle corn is definitely like there's 50 feet of shit after Girl Scout cookies, and then there's Boy Scout kettle corn. So, yeah.
Ding dong, yo, ding dong. Anybody get that reference?
I didn't know Oreos were vegan. That didn't really come into my consideration when I said they were the best cookie, but that's great, I guess.
All right.
How about some football questions, everybody?
Chorizo asked us who's the best on the grill. Do you guys grill very much? I grill. I don't know about you guys.
No. When I have a house with a grill, I'll grill. Otherwise, I'm cooking them ribeyes in a pan.
I don't have a grill because I don't have a house. I have an air fryer. That's pretty good. I'll throw a piece of chicken or beef in there at some points. No, I'm not bougie enough for a grill. I live in a third world country. I don't have a dryer. I mean, I just dry my stuff on the porch. It's not a great situation. I definitely don't have a grill.
So by default, I am the best griller because I'm the only one who grills.
Yeah.
Who grills? But come on, it would have been you anyway, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
Well, I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like that. Alex's reaction. Just saying.
I mean,
so we were in Utah for Thanksgiving this year, and I hate ham. Like I'm not a big ham guy at all. And that's always like the go-to Thanksgiving thing in my family. So I asked my parents, I was like, hey, can I grill a tri-tip this year and just like mix it up? And everybody ate my tri-tip and nobody ate the ham. And I was like, hell yes, let's go.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
nobody likes ham's just there.
Yeah, I'm not a big ham guy.
No. You can't do anything with it other than like put some honey on glaze on it, and that's all you get. Honey baked ham.
It's not a versatile meat. Late day 3 pick.
Yeah. It's the Jerry Tillery of
facts.
The Larry Roundtree of meats.
All right, final question here. Pause, chorizo. Big pause there. All right, final question here. Superchargers 2197. What 3 positions must the Chargers address with their first 5 picks? Tyler, go first.
Crap. Okay. First 5 picks. I don't know.
Wait, is first 5 saying the first, the third, fourth, fifth, and the first? Okay. Yeah.
So I think he's giving you some wiggle room. I think he just wants to know like the 3 positions that you need to have in the first 5 picks, as opposed to like, an order or anything like that.
Okay.
Corner, tackle, safety. I'm hoping Abuji's back as guard. So corner, tackle, safety for me.
Ooh. I don't know if they need corner. I'll go tackle. Tackle. Actually, tackle, corner. And if we're extending this to the 6th round with the first 5 picks, I'll actually say running back too. Because they don't have a running back. They don't have a running back right now behind Eckler, and I don't think they can go into the season with their current situation. So I'll just say, like, in those first 5 picks, I do think they probably need to take a running back.
I actually agree with you, Alex. I was gonna say offensive tackle, running back, and edge. I think those are the 3
edge. I'm such an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about edge too.
But I do think that safety is a big need, Tyler, as well. So I think we're on the same page there. All right. So that's going to do it for us today, guys. We're going to be going live on Monday for our interior offensive line rankings. Excuse me. Voice is cracking up again. All right. So that's going to be happening on Monday. We'll let you know exactly what time that is. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in this Saturday morning. So hopefully you enjoyed. Steven, do you make Utah Jello? I hate Jello. Jello is one of my least favorite things in the world.
Is Utah Jello a thing? Is that like their regional specialty?
Yes, unfortunately, Utah is very well known for their Jello, including this nasty thing that Brooke loves. It's called pretzel Jello, and I hate it. So yeah, Utah is one of the worst food states in the country, and I just. I regret it every time I go and eat at Utah events because there's always just nasty food.
I just imagine like you have New York pizza, South Carolina barbecue, Utah Jello.
Yeah. So the two things that Utah is most well known for food purposes are Jello and this thing called funeral potatoes, which are like cheesy au gratin potatoes with like frosted flakes on top.
Yeah, that correlates with both of those things. Funeral potatoes correlates with the racial demographics of Utah very well.
It does. Can confirm. No, obviously there are great things, food wise, but like in terms of like the staples of Utah food, man, it's not great.
Staples of Utah food.
Jello and frosted
like
flakes
cereal
covered potatoes.
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with you guys?
Listen, this was far before my time. Okay, it's like I'm not the one who chooses these things.
Like, what stoners are in Utah? Just like, shit, I need something for my potatoes. Hey, get me the Cheerios.
No, you know what it is, man. We don't do those things, so we need the sugar. So everything is sugar based.
Jeez.
Oh my god.
You're like fucking elf over here, just like put the syrup and everything on your spaghetti. Like, well, come on.
Funeral potatoes is just like the most depressing thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry.
And
why are they called that? We're not ending the show. Why are they called
because they kill
potatoes?
you? Like,
I think that's how they started at funerals. I don't know, but I've actually never had them at a funeral. I've had them more at like weddings and like church events and things like that. So I don't know why they're called funeral potatoes. That's just what they're called.
What? Utah.
Listen, I moved out of Utah for a reason, guys.
I think if we ever have like a live draft, like a party where we all get together with the fans, I think Steven has to bring like a tray size thing of his famous Utah Jello. Like he has to make it for everyone.
Oh my gosh. Funeral potatoes at a wedding. Yeah, it is sad. It's a very weird thing. Again, Utah food dynamics are weird. All right.
We talked about Girl Scout cookies.
Any other Utah food related questions?
I have a question about Utah while we're still on the show. I'm not talking anymore. Why so many escape rooms? When I pulled out at Salt Lake City, there was like 14 escape rooms, and the person that was our taxi driver was like, "Here's all our escape rooms," and one was like this giant black haunted castle. I'm like, "What? Where am I?"
Yeah, so Utah is huge on trends, and like whenever a trend pops up, it's like everybody tries to hop on that trend. So like obviously, one of the things about LDS Mormon, the religion, is that we're not supposed to drink coffee. So like 5 or 6 years ago, these people started popping up soda shops. So like you go and you get like like it's almost Sonic-esque where you can get a soda and mix it with anything. And so now when you drive through Utah, there's like soda shops all over the place.
Are there people who like have substituted soda for coffee? So like at 8 a.m. or whatever?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My dad drinks a Diet Coke every single morning with his breakfast.
That's disgusting.
I know. It is disgusting.
That's gross.
It's super weird. Does the spice aisle exist in Utah?
And also, like, I don't know if that's by Mormon law. Like, that's objectively unhealthier for you to drink a Coke in place of a coffee.
Yes, it's a huge thing. So, anyways, that's why the escape room is so popular, because it's like one guy came up with it, did a couple chains, and it like did really well. And so other business owners are like, let's just do another escape room. So yeah.
Alex, what do you eat where you are? Like, what are you guys, just like spearfish, or what are you doing?
Spearfish?
No, I mean, my stuff is pretty like American stuff. It's the same stuff in the supermarket. No, I mean, I eat Subway for lunch every day most of the time. So I don't know. It's different on campus as opposed to like living on the actual island. But I don't know. I don't know what they eat there.
Very cool.
Not Utah Jello. I don't think there's any Utah Jello here.
And for the record, I do drink coffee. I like coffee. So
Wow, little sinner over here.
I know. I know. But at least I don't drink a Diet Coke every day with my breakfast.
God.
Or I'm telling you guys, Utah is such a weird place. Like, it's a miracle that I'm so normal because I grew up in Utah.
It's a miracle that you're alive. I mean, like imagine just going to like IHOP or like a regional breakfast place and being like, yeah, I want pancakes, bacon, and toast, and I want soda. Like,
Yeah.
With frosted flakes on them. If the Chargers draft Devin Lloyd, I want to have Utah Jello, whatever the dead potatoes are, and a Diet
dead
Coke.
potatoes. The
And a
Grateful
Diet
Dead
Coke with your pancakes.
Yeah, I think whatever first round pick, wherever state or college they're from, I want to have the food that's known in that state. So if it's Devin Lloyd,
Devin Lloyd grew up in San Diego. Can we have San Diego food instead?
that's amazing. Just
Yeah. Give me a
Mexican food.
California burrito instead.
There you go.
But yeah, Utah's.
Why are you all guys? There's 130 of you still watching. Why are you still here?
We spend more time talking about Girl Scout cookies and Utah food than we did DeAndre Carter.
Oh man.
My God.
Why should someone visit Utah? I think if you like nature and mountains, it's a great place to be and visit.
Yeah, my fiance and I, we did go to Park City, Utah, snowboard a little bit. Take advantage of the nature that's there. Just don't talk to anybody. Welcome to Utah.
Welcome to Utah.
If you like Mitt Romney's carpet bagging, then you'll love Utah.
Oh my goodness. Next time we'll rant about New Jersey or Philadelphia and we'll get some insight there. All right. I gotta go. So we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much to the 130 of you that's tuned into my ranting about Utah. I really appreciate it. Bye guys.
Fuck.